a couple days ago, it was Joe that gave us the quote about from the Gene Keys about desire. Desire makes us trapped, actually, except for one desire. It doesn't make us trapped, and that is the desire to remember yourself, your true self. So I did a little bit of looking around that. Such an awesome quote, but I did a little bit of looking around that, and I found it in my Gene Keys book, and it turns out that that is Gene Key 33, or hexagram 33 in the I Ching, which is actually in DNA. That's actually a stop codon. It's an end of transmission. 33 is an end of transmission signal to DNA. So that's the ending that I was just talking about. And for me, that's really significant, because in my core 4, in my core 4 gene keys in my chart, there's also the start codon. There's only one start codon, and that is gene key 41. And that's actually in my, actually I have both 33 and 41 in my chart. So it's not surprising to me that I feel this end and beginning time, these solstices. I feel them quite strongly when they occur. What's fascinating me is that those words that are written inside that gene key 33 came to light for Joe like within a couple days of the solstice. So I mean, that's really, really cool. I love it that the field hints to us what is significant. Really love the nudges and hints that are in there.
That's a good way to phrase them. Subtle hints. Ask a question, you get subtle hints.
You know, even when you don't consciously ask a question, the hints are there anyway. But you're right. It kind of behooves us to ask the question.
I think it shapes the focus and separates the practices, the structures of being automatic or being in the desire and intention. You know, if the desire and intention being in that was the default, we wouldn't have to ask the question.
Yeah, because here's what I noticed for me. Like I've had this question as, okay, I'm feeling this intense energy. Uh, what is it? Something like what's something that's going on with the moon, or something like a solstice, or something like that. Something going on. And I don't know if you guys heard this at all, but the pattern the pattern on this chart actually looks like it looks like a double helix, like DNA. If you look at the if you actually look at the scope that's used to read that chart, there's been a bunch of posts about it lately, and it's like there's been a jump in the resonance. So what's being suggested is that that's even a collective consciousness jump in human beings, as well as the earth itself. So in fact, it's even called, somebody called it the second coming of Christ. But that stuff really fascinates me. And the thing is, when something like that happens in conjunction with an event like a solstice, that's pretty damn powerful. And I'm really encouraged because of the awareness that my body is actually sensing all that stuff. And the key word there is awareness. Because my body always has sensed that stuff, but I haven't been aware of it. Until now. Which makes it a lot easier to consciously align with it.
It is, we'll find what we look for, huh? Our focus goes to something, our attention goes on to something versus something else.
Well, then it comes to that quote of Joe's. It's remembering your true nature. I mean, that's the effect of awareness, actually, for me, is remembering my true nature.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting that I sense that in my body? Kinesiology.
Well, is it the only way we could know it?
I don't know. It turns out to be true for me, but I don't know if that's true for everybody. Could be.
I'm just, because it's the emotional, so it's the emotions aspect part.
No, I don't think it is the emotions. It's higher dimensional senses, actually.
Okay,
Muscle memory.
I can see that. What I'm separating is the feeling from the head, and in between there is, I think, what we're talking about, which through the heart, like it's a, you feel that it's right.
I'd go farther than that. I'd say it's a knowing.
And it changes. And it's one time you know it, and the next time you might not.
Mm. It's a pretty solid knowing. As it's practiced, the sensitivity to it increases.
Yeah.
So
The
it's
more
not
you
like it
travel
goes
the
away.
path, right?
Yeah. It's incremental.
It's all feedback, whether you're on the right track or not. And I find that I can blow those down a track that ends up being in not the right spot at some point, and it's not as obvious to find out where to get back to.
It's like the ebb and the flow of the oceans.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's nothing, like it's like there's a purpose. There's a purpose why we went down that path. There was something there that was completed, was ended. And it may not all make sense right in that moment.
It doesn't make sense at all.
Well, good. Well, that goes against that knowing then.
No, it doesn't. Knowing doesn't make sense. That's the whole point of knowing. knowing is beyond understanding. It's a whole different mechanism.
True, which is when then I would say like that in those ebb and flows, that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's
Well,
there,
understanding
whatever.
doesn't matter.
So whatever you need to, whatever you have to say about it, whatever you resolve that feels good, that completes, however that is, just without judgment, without analyzing it, without tearing it apart, without trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
Just be, damn it.
Yeah, yeah. As for me, there's no path. There's no tracks either. It's not. I couldn't say that it's a direction, but it is an alignment. Alignment isn't a good word because alignment is linear. Attunement is a better word. Syncing up with attuning to the energies that are there.
You think that's linear?
No, I said the word was linear. Alignment has the word line in it.
Craig, sometimes I feel like you argue anything. I'm really sorry to say that. But that's what I experience sometimes. When somebody gives you feedback on something, then you argue it. You didn't argue with me necessarily now about alignment. I asked you a question and you gave me an answer.
I was just clarifying.
Yeah. But there was something in it that just, yeah. You said earlier that you didn't know if it was like that for everybody, but it was like that for you. And for me, that's perfectly acceptable. I don't, that's great. It means you're processing. But I often experience you going over as declaring your truth to be everybody else's. And that if people aren't in that, then they don't know much. Or it's just in the way in which you say things. I don't think you intend it like that at all. So sorry about that feedback. But I think, I needed to say that for me. So sorry.
Okay, received and appreciated. Thank you, Allison.
You're very welcome. Thank you for being gracious about it.
Yeah, I'm just struggling with words.
I think it's more than that. or different to that. Sorry, it's different to that.
It's a part of it. Just as it's how all those words resonate with uniquely us. And uniquely us is entangled with the society's ebb and flow, movement, growth, limitations, all of the words. And just in knowing, it's the same way of, as we say the words, we say, nope, that wasn't in alignment, that wasn't attuned, that wasn't what I meant. And we search for, once that's out and open, we search for another word that aligns to it. Geez, that's more harmony with it.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And so I say whether we're, the more we are aware of that, the deeper we go.
Yes.
Or going the other way, the higher we go.
Yeah.
The closer to that the true self, the desire of remembering, the quote that we're working. The desire to remember oneself. It appears that the point to remember is to express.
Yes. Quite true. For me. Craig, you were talking about desires. So in yoga, there's a saying that desire is life's longing for itself.
Yeah.
And it resonates for me at such a core level. So it was interesting to hear a bit of a different route to that, right? With the I Ching, with the gene keys.
That could be the beacon for everyone then. And it's that yearning. That expression. It's subtle, as you said, like subtle and quiet. Pulling. Where I said it was emotion, I do agree that it's much deeper than that. Above the emotional triggers. Meaning, or that's back to being. We're aware of our being aware of the emotions, and in a emotion of curiosity, of wonder, joy, it's easier to hear or to feel that knowing, that expression, that beacon. I think it is what causes so much problems in life. Not that it's there, but that we don't listen. We don't know how to listen to it.
Yeah.
We don't know
Yeah.
how to uncover it. We don't, when we put other things in the way of it, then knowing that it's inside of us, like wanting to come out, where we're trying to take something out here and shove it down in there. If I could say it for me, it would have been like fame and fortune, but not fame and fortune where everyone knew it, but where people would look up to me that I knew, right? They would admire what I had. They would admire, they would look up, they would envy, right? In a way. It's like that was me pushing that down. To the word, it was how I was being. Without even realizing, like, one, how it worked, or two, that I was doing it, and three, change it. I got the hint of the solstice there, right? That big momentum, slowing down and changing directions. Our big patterns, right? Our old patterns. Those old patterns we give all that energy to, and slowing them down, pulling the energy away from them and focusing it into something new, something else, something other.
For me, the challenge around that is the noise.
What do you identify as noise?
Well, you mentioned trying to find something that you can shove in there.
Yeah.
That becomes another instance of internal noise, because the whole environment is full of noise.
Yeah.
And then if you succumb to that noise, you end up adding more to it internally.
Yeah.
That's what keeps being offered to you. Noise.
Say that again, Craig. That's what keeps you.
I don't remember what I said.
Okay. It's okay. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'll share a little story about noise. Kaylis she was around 3, and we had a rapper living with us. He was doing an album with Bruce. And so they became quite close, the two of them. He was a very sweet young guy. And they'd done a recording of the one song. And so she was walking around there, and she walked into the studio. And Bruce says to her, "Do you want to hear the song?" And she says, "Yes." She nods her head. And Bruce plays a part of it for her. And she screws her face up and says, "That's just a noise to me," and walks out of the studio. And so they took the clip of her saying, "That's just a noise to me," and they put it in the song. It's so sweet. But it was also that thing about being so much in her body. She didn't like the sensation of it. And she didn't like the sensation of it. She reorientated herself away from her dad and darling Waddy and walked straight out to studio to go and find where she's going to feel better. So that came to me because of your word with noise.
Yeah. You could also use the word distractions.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Anything that draws your attention.
Yeah. And I think that's why, or that's the logic maybe that I felt about talking about a desire, that any desire underneath it is life's longing for itself.
Yes.
But we don't necessarily have the, oh God, what's the instrument that you use to get your direction?
Well, compass.
Compass, thank you. We don't necessarily have the compass available to us at that point.
Yeah.
Welcome, Ian.
Hi.
Oh,
Oh my
Ian.
goodness. Hi, Ian.
Morning. Hi.
It's so good to hear your voice, Ian.
It's good to hear yours too.
How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I think I'm always good when I know that I'm in the same space as you, although I always am, of course. But it's nice to have closer proximity.
It's always a pleasure. We were just working, just being in our longing for express our life's longing for itself. Old patterns, like old ways of being, where we focused our energy before being aware, before we're here today, and how that is so much momentum and energy that we're shifting. So it's like that solstice, like the stillness from tipping one way of the earth and then coming back the other way. So it's the end and the beginning.
There's no momentum here right now.
Mm.
You don't even have the noise of momentum either.
Mm. Well, my life does.
No, but you understand what I'm saying, right? The energy, the bigger energy has no momentum in it. So it's like you can kind of piggyback that energy and do a lot of inner work right now.
Mm. So it's, if I think of it, put it on a pendulum, then it's at the at the top. It's at the top there and getting ready to fall again.
Right.
Mhm. That moment you can just float.
Yep.
Mm.
Well, the word for me today is it's been in the background. It's kind of one of those knowing ones. It was hit me early this morning, and as it well, those hit me, then I like test. I was like, oh, maybe that's the word, right? Maybe it is. Then I'll see it show up a couple of more times, and it's like, okay, there it is again. There it is again. So my word today is just giving, give, give. So I was just
Mm.
spinning and give, just being giving. So we were working as that pendulum comes in and changes direction. I asked Craig, he said, well, all the noise that's there. And yes, as it's outside distractions, it's our old ways, our old patterns, our old triggers. I highly, like when you said it, Craig, I went right to, it's like, oh, my ego chatter, my internal mind, making sense of all of that out there, with all the energy, with all of the momentum that has. And just aware of it, yeah, just to allow it, just to observe it and align that to that inner pole, that my inner self yearning for life to express itself. Much easier said than done, but grateful that I get to practice it every morning. With amazing people.
So there was something also that came to me as you were talking that through just for and it's about the use of the two different words of trigger and activation. And for a while now, I've started to realize that you can be activated negatively or positively. For me, being triggered has usually got a negative charge to it. And so the activation, the positive part of it is when something sparks joy, it's a memory that my body has. And that gets brought to the fore, which for me is a positive charge. I don't know that it's even a charge. It's just it's a state of being that takes me closer to just being, I would say, in my words this morning. And it was quite nice to realize that I don't only get pulled, as it were, with a negative charge, but there's a lot of me that gets pulled with a positive. Even if that is a bit of a delineation. It would be as I get pulled to the longing and the being of life itself. And in that instant, it's like, it doesn't matter what noise there is around. It all gets dropped. And then there's just that living in the momentum and in love, or the momentum of love.
Yeah. It's replacing patterns of love with those that are not. And love is joy, calm, like all the positive ones that can all experience. Just doesn't have to, I just don't have to hold on to one of them. But I think that there's a better word, is the expanding, the and charges. And so right in the beginning, when you and Craig were talking about the pendulum, and Craig said that it brought stillness. And my experience of stillness is this vast expansion. And it's it's almost the same as being.
Good lives there.
Yeah, could, which is all the potential, all the possibilities, the largest space. Neutral, I find neutral there. I think it's appears the best place that we can see it all.
I like that term, could lives there.
We've been exploring that word a lot the last couple of weeks, Allison. So
I do listen sometimes, Craig. I have to go. Thank you so much for the start to my day. Bye-bye,
thank you, Allison.
Ian.
Bye,
See you,
Allison.
Allison,
Thank
next
you.
time.
Big love.
Yes. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Good lives there.
Yeah. Does could have a direction of time?
No. Because it can be reflected back to reframe and retell.
Mm-hmm.
the story could be different.
Yeah, I'm looking. If I were to say I had a majority of it, I would say mine like a majority and nothing in it. It's just it is a future word more as a majority for me. It's like what could be. That's how I orient to it most.
Yeah. But we can change our past by changing the story of it.
Mhm.
Believe it or not, that actually changes what was. Which is
I'm a
freaky.
believer of that. I'm a believer. I know that. I mean, it's all our reality is locked up in the time anyway, and so what I'll say to that, Craig, is how my experience of it, it doesn't change how I think it changes it or how I thought it could change it.
Mm.
Meaning, so often do we think about if that was possible, we think about it as time travel back and then all of the changing events as associated with that. So we would think like a whole new set of dominoes would fall and we would be a different person today, like in a different situation. That's how I related to first hearing that claim.
Yeah.
But knowing what's possible, it's like, no, I can see that differently now, release it, let it go, change it from the past, change that fixedness. That's all it's changing, is that fix, how I was fixed in that moment. I change it to how I could have been different or done something different. And then that releases it in the moment of this point forward.
I think how I'm feeling at the minute relates to this. Like today, I'm feeling sadness and peace at the same time. It's really strange. Like I'm feeling a bit of sadness in my heart. Like there's sadness coming up in my heart, but then I'm also feeling peace. Yeah. And I just think a lot of stuff, I'm realizing a lot of stuff, but I'm also realizing it was never me, it was my structure. So I'm thinking I wasn't the common denominator, it was never me. It was just a structure. I chose it, I chose it also. Yeah, I'm just feeling sadness and peace at the same time. It's a bit, yeah, it feels a bit strange.
And I love that. What there's for me is like, that's peaceful power.
Yeah.
Normally we wouldn't associate those together. Like I can just feel my resistance to it, but knowing the power of knowing what you just said, and that those two can exist together.
Yeah, I've never felt sadness and peace at the same time, so it's the first.
When we started this call, Ian, we were talking about being the solstice. The solstice is like the end of the pendulum. Like it's in stillness and it's just about to change direction. It's in stillness. So you have end and beginning that are happening at the same time. So for your case, it might be like you just said, you got sadness and peace that are coexisting at the same time. And you may have a choice about which one you move forward with and which one you leave behind.
Yeah, it's like a sadness in my
anytime they're
heart, but then peace
coexisting,
in my
right?
body. Yeah, it's like sadness in my heart a little bit, but then peace in my body.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
And they might even integrate with each other. Inside this energy, inside that solstice energy.
I just think I'm at the stage where all this work is all coming together, and I'm seeing that. Yeah, I'm just starting to see.
Starting to see your power.
And I'm also seeing the lessons behind it. If I chose this, what's the lesson? Like I've always struggled like with relationships, but I know one of my soul lessons is to learn to master solitude. So I chose that, so I would learn to master solitude, you know. So I do see the lesson behind it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the structure I was brought up in, I chose it, so I would find relationships challenging, so I could master solitude. But that part's over now. I can't allow love into my life, you know. I've learned the lesson now. So time to move on.
Yeah, good. It's as you said that it's like, yeah, it's like when we see it, it's like, oh, there's a choice to be like, oh, do I still need more to learn here, or is it like, am I complete and ready for something new now? And I do find like I find that can be difficult too, to be like, wow, because it's familiar, right? And it's been such a part of me, right? To say like, oh, well, if I let that go, I'm gonna have to go do something else. Like go find something else, go explore. And I can get attached to what was.
Oh
I
yeah.
think I'm just trying to learn a balance, like, because I do feel a lot of love and I am very loving, but still being loving, but being firm. Still being loving, but not being a pushover, like, you know, and finding a balance. And what I find quite challenging is like in relationships, it's like I was with this guy the other day and he was telling me personal things that somebody else has told him. And I was thinking in my mind, why would you tell me that? He's told you in confidence. Why the fuck are you telling me? You know, if he wanted me to know, he would tell me himself. And then I think to myself, I don't trust him, because if he's telling me what somebody else has told him in private, and he's telling me, he's going to be saying that to them about me. So yeah, I find it hard. Like if someone's told you something personally, why tell me? If they wanted me to know, they'll tell you themselves. And I just find it really hard to understand. Like why go around telling other people stuff what they've told you in confidence? I just find it really yeah.
You're familiar with the saying, behavior is the highest form.
Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful example of it, and it gives you insight to the boundaries, right? Is awareness. Look at that awareness of that. It's like, oh, this person's behavior is to do that. I'm not here to change them, right? It's like, but I see their behavior is that behavior I want to be entangled with, get involved with, right? I know what I'm going to tell this person, right?
Like, he's a really nice guy. I didn't say anything. I just find it hard to understand why he would tell me something personal that somebody else has told him and then tell me don't say anything to them. And then that makes me, if he's saying about our person, if I tell him something for confidence, he's going to be telling other people that. So it just,
Yeah,
yeah.
you bet. No, and it comes to, it's like, oh, damn it, is it my lesson? Is it their lesson? Or is it both of our lessons?
I think probably he's trying to teach me to stop saying personal things, too much personal stuff to people before I can know I can trust them.
And I think it gives you're starting to see it, right? You're starting to become aware of it. You're like, there's different signs that you're aware of to be like, oh yeah, maybe that's what I want. Maybe it's not what I want. Good morning, Nikki.
I find humans very hard to understand. I know I'm a human, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Best one that the one that seems to work for me when I can apply it is that's their genius.
Morning, Jesse. Morning, Craig and Ian.
Morning, Nikki.
Morning.
Hey, morning, guys.
And we're just being a life that wants to express itself, find itself, reveal itself, yearning for itself. And in the solstice, like a pendulum at the ends, getting ready with switching directions. And at that moment of like ending in new beginnings. Anything else you'd like to add, gentlemen?
Just I've been doing this work for like about 6 months now, and I can actually feel, I can just feel a shift. I feel like the old me is falling away. I feel like I'm getting there now. I can see. Taking me 6 months, but yeah.
Right. In this work, do you focus on like core choices?
Yeah, I do it every morning.
The four of them from the Meg Mind, like life you love, powerful creator, true nature and purpose, and health and vitality. Like those are I don't know if they're common with what we're talking about.
Yeah, they're the four that I do.
Roughly.
And I've
Good.
got a few of my own as well.
Yeah, perfect. Just reflecting back, it's like first 6 months for me was what I realized it was all about love for me. So it was like I had felt like I broke through on one of the core choices, right? It's like, breakthrough on one of them. And then it would take a little while and the other ones would break through too. And then it would go back to almost to like a whole nother level, and I'd break through another one again, right? And then all of them would domino effect through that. So that's been my experience through coming into 3 years of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear what Ian's saying. It's happening very fast now, but the process of growth and going through all these things of processing and coming into our choices and staying focused. The healing process is a continuous thing. It's not like how many years you've done it, because it's going to be days where you feel like, where are you? You're just somewhere out there in space. You're going to have days that you're just not going to even, really know. And that's also that place where you can say it's okay, if that makes sense. Because it is really not about how many years and how many days or months that you're doing something. It's right now how you perceiving and how you feeling. Because we're all going to go through the same things over and over, because that's life. It's just
I
how
think
we.
for me, sorry,
Yeah.
I think for me, I've been learning to come with it more, like what I was saying about that guy saying someone else's personal information. If I'm experiencing on the outside what's not trying to teach me, oh, it's trying to teach me to stop giving too much personal information to people who I know I can trust them. So I think everything that happens on the outside now, I'm going within and saying, if that's showing up in my outside world, then when it's a mirror of how I feel on the inside, what's it trying to show me?
Yeah.
What is it within me that I need to look at? Oh, that's it. I need to stop giving too much personal information.
Mm.
It is. And then we can start to build new patterns, right? New practices, new behaviors that are in the direction of those core choices that we're after.
Yeah.
That's great. I hear you, Nikki. I do. It is always, I think I had a misconception anyway, to say like, oh, when I found it, it would all be fixed, right? It would all be like, it's like, it's like, in all reality, life isn't that way, and it never really could be.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. Because
But
that's
that was,
another. Yeah. Sorry, Jesse. Yeah, I'm listening.
but that was what my pattern was looking for.
Yeah. Right.
Ooh,
Right.
realization.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's a really good one there. Yeah. Craig also felt that. Yeah, totally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Craig felt that too. I felt that immediately. Craig and I felt that immediately the same time. That's when you know. That's when you know. That's it.
And so it's not like, what changed was my fixedness for what I was looking for.
Mm. Oh, so good. When you come from a perfectionist, of needing to do something right, because it's not about it's just the perfectionist is not to be hurt, and that's what makes a person feel small, because they don't want to be seen, but that's actually what you want to be. And that's why perfectionist is such a it's yeah, you can let go of that. It's a big one, and that's a big one for me. I'm speaking from my own experience, because I thought only if I get it right, only if I'm like, if people perceive me like this, then and this and that and that, and what people expectations, and if I can level up and meet up to what they want, because it was all about what people were thinking about me. And so when that came to me to understand that perfectionism is delusional, it's just crazy. I actually wanted just to be seen for who I am, but I never gave that out. I wanted to rather have somebody to that I meet their needs, you know. So for that gave me that understanding now that, yeah, it can let that go, because that was part of my healing. And the same with judgment. Doesn't mean that people are not going to judge you, because they're going to judge you. It's just what it is. No matter what you do, how you do it, they're going to judge. They're going to find some criticism. But the most important thing is to go into your heart and you just go, like, what do you want? What do you want to feel?
You could be the most loving person in the world, and some people still don't like you. They'll still find things to criticize about you, so you know.
Yep.
You could be an angel walking on earth, and people still, you know, criticize.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to
think
go
for
to
me,
that.
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, when you were talking about beliefs, I think I realized the other week that I had the belief. I got it from my mum. It was ancestral belief that love hurts, that love's painful. So what I realized, because I've had that belief, I've always drawn people into my life that have showed me love hurts. You know, like partners, friends. You know.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I've just seen that it's a belief from my mum, and it's a generational belief because my mum believed love hurts. And I saw that the other week, and I've been, I'm just
Yeah.
changing now. I'm seeing there's so many beautiful people in the world. Love doesn't hurt. Love's beautiful, you know. We are seeing it now, and that's why I always attracted abusive partners and friends that would take advantage, because I had a belief that love hurt from my mother. Yeah.
I think
I know
awareness.
it's not me. I know
Yeah.
it's structural. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also unconsciously, you know, it's just not even knowing. And that's why you can't judge yourself. You don't know something. So you get to know something. Do you know? And then you have that awareness. And I think that's what's so beautiful about unpacking the whole ancestral line, of realizing that things that pass down to you, that you can now can go, wow, I understand, you know. There's certain portions that you do understand, that you know that consciously wasn't right, but in the same time, it's you to break that cycle. So when you get to acknowledge that, that's when you can really decide, now that's not what I'm choosing anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see, because my mum's always had abusive partners, and I can just see how it's ancestral love hurts, the belief. So I'm sure I've chosen a different path now. Yeah, I can just see it clearly now.
Yeah.
And because of that, I got a belief that it's safer to be alone, because love hurts.
Oh, yeah.
Which brings us back to that question. What is this pattern trying to find?
Very good.
Trying to teach me to love myself, self-love, all the love I need is within me. Stop looking outside of myself for love.
Oh, yes.
Come within for love. Love's already there. I don't need to look externally for love. There's love in my heart.
Oh,
Use the love I have in my heart for myself.
yes.
Oh, Ian,
Yeah.
what was
Yeah.
that pattern trying to find?
Self-love, just to love myself, my authentic self, my true self, my true expression.
Well, there you go. Yeah, so nothing else really matters to that pattern, does it?
Very good.
The story doesn't even matter.
Different.
The story around it doesn't even matter to that pattern.
Yeah, let go of the stories. I chose it for a reason to make me who I am. So I believe we choose everything before we come here. So.
Oh, yeah.
And I know I can't change others. I can just see the same patterns in my siblings, and it's like I can't. There's nothing. They have to do the work. I can't do it for them. You know.
True.
Yeah.
And
Like
I
my
do think
sister
this.
writing on Facebook, and I can just see. Sorry, my sister writing on Facebook, and I can just see the patterns, and it's like. Now you know the work. It's like I can see it clearly, and I can see her wounding, but I can't do it for her. You know.
Mm.
You ever noticed that that human beings tend to defend their patterns?
Mhm.
That's because if you do it's owning up to it, not easy.
Because
You
the
know?
pattern,
If
the
you don't-
pattern hasn't,
If you
the
don't know
pattern
this
hasn't,
work,
the pattern hasn't found what it was looking for. So you defend the pattern because it's not done yet.
so what do you do once a pattern is done?
I didn't hear the question, Ian. Could you ask it again?
Craig was saying about a pattern that people defend it because there's something to learn. So what do you do once you recognize the pattern and the pattern's done? Just become a new you. Choose.
Well, when it's found what it was looking for.
Yeah. Just choose a new path. I'm
Mhm.
It's
guessing.
not, it's not
Choose a
really,
new way.
it's not really a learning. It's more of a resolution.
Mm.
I mean, you're learning from it, but it's looking for a resolution of some kind. It's
And I
reason
think,
for existing.
yep. And like, so the defending of it, the defending of that pattern doesn't allow it to see what it needs.
Right.
And because I like culturally, I can say for me and my experience is that it always felt like it was something out there that I needed to pick up and shove down inside of there, and then then that pattern would have what it wanted.
Right.
That was how I oriented to that pattern that was always running, looking for something, and it was I was orienting to it wrong, ineffectively. And I come to, it's like when we can be at peace to ask that question, what do I really need here? We really have to expose ourselves to ourselves.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
revolutionary for me today. Wow.
Only then does it like slip away. It's like release, and it's like, oh, like something else now can come out of it that opens up for a new lesson or learning or potential. Peeling back more layers of the onion. I should say more layers of the pattern. So I think about, Ian, that's a great question. It's like when you see it, what do we do? One way I think about that is to really ask them what they want. What do they need? What is missing? What are they trying to fill it in with?
That's why the pattern question is a better question.
Ooh, what's that one?
What's the pattern looking for?
There you go. Thank you. There you go. What a detachment to it, right? It's like, what is the pattern? It's easy, less willing to defend the pattern when it's the pattern. Not me, not I.
We
not
identify
you.
with the patterns.
Yeah.
That's the error on our part.
Yeah, once you see it, if somebody says it, you'd be like, yeah, you're right. I see it. You don't defend.
Mhm.
But you have to see it yourself first.
And
Just to use an example, you're learning to walk. Okay, what that pattern is wanting to find is the ability to walk. So you step out and you start putting one foot in front of the other. It's pretty haphazard at the beginning. Eventually you get that down and the pattern is established. You don't have to think about walking anymore. So it's good to identify with that pattern. Not really to identify with it, but to actually use that patterning in order to be able to walk every day from here on out. But there's other patterns too. There's a lot of other patterns being developed as well, and they were all developed for certain reasons. And whereas the walking pattern reason was something that was kind of meant to be permanent and held on to, there's all kinds of other patterns that only have a temporary reason. So those are the ones that we need to revise as we get older. As we experience more of life, we realize that these patterns that we've created and identified with are no longer serving us. So it's time to stop identifying with them to start with, and then change the contents of the pattern. As in what is the new pattern looking to find? And Ian suggested a good one. To know who I truly am. Remembering. Quite frankly, that's what's happened to me.
Bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Get so lost in all the bullshit, the ancestral stuff, everything. You just get lost.
Well, yeah, it's not. That's not really. That really doesn't matter. But your pattern kind of thinks it does. Consciousness thinks it does matter.
It's what I do today that matters, not what I did 10 years ago. Because I didn't know then what I know now. So,
Yeah. So it's not the pattern that's the problem. It's what the pattern wants. What the pattern is trying to find.
so for example, looking full of outside of yourself, the pattern is that you want to find self-love. Like that's the end thing, if you get it. Does that make sense?
Well, how ridiculous is that? Looking outside of yourself for self-love. Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah. Looking outside yourself for love, but then realizing the love's within. The pattern was trying to teach you to look within for love. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, I'm going to head off now, but thank you for a beautiful call. I appreciate you all. And I will see you next time.
Appreciate you, Ian. Big love.
Much love. Much love, Dickie.
Bye, Ian.
Wow. Oh, this turned out to be really heavy today. Wow.
Yeah, I think demonstration of the experiences, right? Like what we're experiencing, what we're going through that changes how we're seeing it, changing the patterns. Love that question. What does that pattern need?
Yeah. What does it need? What does it want? What is it looking to find?
Hmm.
The original version as it came out of your mouth. Thank you. What is this pattern looking to find?
What does this pattern need to find? I was also Nikki. I thought it was great. She triggered in me. It's like, and it resonated to me. I can't say it's for everyone, but I think it's very, very deep. Like to probably why all the patterns, sorry, all the wounding patterns are there. Is like our attachment to how we want people to see us.
Yes.
So there's a way that we want them to see us. I spoke about mine. I want them to see me as successful, right? And it was like my prover. I was to prove that to people. So I wanted people to see that, and yet so afraid of what they would, so afraid of what others, the other side of it. I'm trying to find the words to it. So the way people, so afraid of them seeing me the another way, like hiding that.
Yeah.
So if it's, I want them to see me a certain way, there's an image, right? There's a, there's a, there's a, and and not allowing them to see me other than that.
The flip side of that is giving up on people actually seeing your true nature.
There it is. So it's the, there it is. It's rather, so it's the looking, there it is. It's looking the out there for people, right? There, the pattern is looking for people to validate it when it's really we validate it.
Yeah.
Hmm. And it is what we're so afraid of. It's like what we're finding is what we don't want people to find out. That's why it's so defending or so scary. That's hiding the true essence.
Yeah.
Hiding the true expression.
Yeah, I did that throughout my marriage, and what ended up happening was my true nature got more and more hidden, more and more obliterated.
Yeah, deep buried, deeper.
Very deeper. Yeah. Because it was unacceptable.
Mhm.
My
Nice.
essence was unacceptable.
Yeah.
Wow.
Buried.
Wow.
Which, which makes sense from the core wounding, as a child making sense of the world, right? Expressing themselves and then getting feedback that that's not how you do it.
Yeah. So I just realized something right here, right now, is that the biggest fear for me right now is allowing my true nature to be exposed. Wow, and there's a pattern. Because I know that goes back many generations and many lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
That pattern. Wow. Yeah, it's a really, really big one.
Mm.
The idea of nakedness comes to mind.
Hmm.
In the language of Adam realized he was naked, so he hid himself.
Is it in front of people or alone?
Alone.
Huh?
That's the way
Interesting.
the story's set up.
Well, I was asking about your pattern.
Originally it's alone, but then it's projected.
I think that to me seems to be the issue, right? To the because like the focal point, right? It could be just my pattern too.
So like, yeah, to be like having your true nature exposed to yourself.
Mhm.
So fear your own true nature. Fear your own reflection in the mirror.
Mhm. I think that pattern, as deep as it is for humanity, will be different for everyone. And how I think about it as like, oh, I'm more nervous on standing on a stage naked than I am alone. As I say that, what that says to me is, oh, that's a protection for the core, which the core is the inner, like true
Yeah.
self. Because you think about it as I'm going in, that true nature wants to come out, and so it'll stay behind the barriers.
Yeah.
And so my barrier, like that barrier, is having other people see it as powerful is my barrier that I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Here's the thing too. I don't know that we've ever seen a really good example of a human being who's really authentic and genuine. So it's kind of like uncharted territory.
We've heard stories of them,
Yeah.
but like in the presence of, or I think we can, when we hear it or when we see it, we can recognize it.
Yes.
And I think that's part of the unraveling that's happening in the world today, is more people are, and I think the younger group, right, they're more comfortable with that, and that's becoming more and more accepted, which is the barriers are coming down.
Yeah. And that's the result of that all that awakening energy
Mhm.
that's happening right now.
like they say, the veil is thin.
The veil between powerful and powerless.
Yeah, for me, a big thing the last few years, especially, was about allowing God to validate my true nature instead of looking outside, like it being my true nature thing being a God and me collaboration. Not worried about anybody else, any other validation.
Yeah. Oof, I can just say I feel the claws and grips of society in holding on to that. Oof.
Yeah.
You know, meaning holding on to not expressing your true self, staying inside of the boundaries, staying inside of the structure.
Staying in your lane. So what's building up now is the whole coming outside of that. It's coming out into the public with in the power of that. It's radical. It's really, really radical.
I like that word, revealing. It's like revealing.
Yeah.
Meaning we've had it, we are just now revealing it, letting it out. Accepting it's inside of you, it's already there, it's part of you, accepting it is you.
Yeah. Yeah, it is me. You know what's interesting is that euphoria and terror feel the same in my body.
Yeah, it's the closest I could explain that would be excited and scared.
Yeah, same. Yeah, same thing.
And then it's just the story we attach to it, right?
Right, exactly.
And we can always change the story. But I think that story's the pattern, right?
Well, the pattern actually was was looking for euphoria, but it found terror.
Mm-hmm.
And identified with that
Identified.
terror.
Yep. And then continued to look for it. Was always on the lookout for that. Every time you had that feeling, it was on the lookout for that. Something bad's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen. And what happens? You never find utopia.
But what's interesting is that pattern is extremely strong because it's gone, it's gone there. It's repeated itself over and over and over again. But the cool thing is, if I can put euphoria in there,
Exactly.
I can use the potential energy of the pattern to
You
propel
bet.
me forward, right? So
You bet. That's the power of it. And I'd say it's probably one of your very first ones if it's that strong.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Wow.
even like, so it's one of your first ones in this experience, which could mean like the generational side of it, which is probably very first one generationally.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Mona's timeline would be really good for that one too.
Why don't you say what that is so we got it on tape?
A process. What I find with it, generational ones, the core four appear to go very far back in time, very far back in our lineage, as a wounding, as a beginning, and part of what we spoke about is being able to go back and change that orientation to it, right? Orientation to the word, to the situation, and what it went for me is I found I went back to love, and so went to the beginning of time of love for me, and it was way early, not in this lifetime, but like way early. And what you find is where you go back as far as you can to the moment that you chose it to be that way.
Yeah.
And like you go to many events back and you'll see what was in the way along the way that keeps you, big powerful moments that keep you from it. And as we know, right, it's deep work of releasing that pattern so that we can find what it's looking for.
Yeah.
And it's like, so that becomes the power of working with one another to do it, because sometimes those entanglements weren't just with ourselves. They were with other energies, other people, other beings, other whatever. Yeah. And what I'll say for myself is that I don't believe I'd have been able to go that far back by myself.
Yeah.
and a person has to be ready for it.
Yeah, that's the other half.
That's a big half to it, yeah.
Yeah, because the thing is, we have this assumption that all the issues we deal with are ours. And what I've discovered is that most of them aren't mine.
Mm.
A lot of it was picked up in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that whole ownership thing is like really a twist.
Yeah, it is. And I'll say that we think what we picked up is only in this lifetime.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah.
And I think you were insinuating that. And
Yeah.
interesting. Whatever I was listening to. I was listening to one of the plays of something, and it spoke about the original language of native people, tribes, and so on. They don't have a word for owned.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my point.
Mhm. So if you can't own anything, or if it's not even in your structure or language to own something,
Right.
then what is it? It's a whole. It's all together. It's collective. It's ours. There's no mine. It's no them. It's ours. That's huge.
There's nothing but us.
Yeah.
It's very deceptive.
Mm.
Our society has gone to the extreme as far as individual responsibility for behavior. So somebody grows up in all kinds of really twisted conditioning, and their behavior reflects that conditioning. And so we start off by putting them in juvie, and then we end up locking them up for the rest of their life. In meantime, that conditioning continues, and nobody's responsible for that.
No.
As I see it, that's the paradigm that's changing. That's the root of the pyramid that's changing. It's this confusion between individuation and individualism.
All the way back to Aristotle, the father of personal development.
Yeah.
And then the I am Nay Descartes, all in the separation of it.
Yeah. What's very interesting is if you look at the Hebrew around the first 3 chapters of Genesis, it actually says that before the tree was ever eaten of, before Adam and Eve actually ate of the tree, it says that Adam was in his separation.
What is that? So what is that? What's the meaning of that then? It sounds to me like before even eating of the tree, right, or the fruit, that it was already separate.
Right. That he already believed he was separate from God. Yeah, it's pretty interesting language when you look into it.
Which would say that was the beginning then, right?
Yeah.
The big, is that what you're saying?
It was a deviation. It was a deviation from true nature.
Yeah, that's what I think I was trying to get to. Is like that
Yeah.
if we want to call it the Big Bang, we could call it the Big Bang realizing when we separated.
Well, and there's a lot of things in that story that kind of imply that scenario was the beginning of the imbalance. It was the beginning of extreme dark masculine energy kind of taking over everything.
Yeah. The origin of religion.
Yeah. That's why balance is so important. Because it keeps you away from the extremes. Because extreme feminine energy wouldn't be healthy either.
No, right? That's
The only thing that's healthy is balance.
yeah. I mean, well, you
Balance
just think
of
about
harmony, right, is neutral. You know what I mean? That's kind of what it comes down to.
yeah. It's like before separating masculine and feminine, even.
Yeah. But gender is actually in the 7 principles of Hermes. So it's there, and that's implied in Genesis too. It's like the spirit is the feminine, and the voice is the masculine, and the earth is the offspring, or the creation more specifically is the offspring.
Mhm.
that union.
Hmm.
'Cause there's a triad right there.
Mm-hmm. Sure makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Creativity lives in the triad.
Mm-hmm. And we are the creators. Living in it.
Yep.
Creating it.
Yeah, and Earth is a microcosm of that.
Yeah.
And family is a microcosm of that.
Yeah. Fascinating morning, Craig. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, it's been great.
Well, have a great rest of Friday.
Oh wow, it's Friday today. Oh my goodness. I slept most of yesterday, so that's probably why I'm a day behind.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's good.
Good.
I needed it.
Yeah, there you go.
Recalibrating like crazy.
There you
Still.
go. Good.
Okay.
All right, Craig. Have a good day.
You too. Big love, Jesse.
Big love, Craig.